dirt, I'm all about that. Dirt, 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 I'm throwing. Dirt, 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 I miss that. Dirt, 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 gotta get back to I'm a dirt trackaholic, call it what you call it. Saturday night, I am so Kenny Wallace on that. Dirt, 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 I miss that. Dirt, 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 gotta get back to it. I've been the Kenny Wallace of the rap game ever since I hit him with that dirt track thing. Now nationwide, everybody knows my name. They're like, mama, that's Kenny Montgomery. He sings that song we like. Yeah, boy, that's me. Roll out the trailer, I'm flossing. Them Hoosier tires glossing. Them cold kind we're tossing. They know I came to wreck it, yet I rarely bring out a caution. I hit the high side, boy, I park it for Brian Clausen.
Welcome to Throttled Up, the podcast. Often imitated, never duplicated. Your weekly home for the best in motorsports coverage.
Even your grandpa talking about, man, that boy too cold.
And welcome back to Throttled Up, the podcast. And Matt, we're going a different direction tonight. Well,
kind of sideways,
but it's not really a different direction. Because if we think about how we've talked before, how these late models are really set up to run now. It's not in a straight line anymore.
No,
it's kind of a drift style.
Yeah.
So we're going to go drifting tonight,
just on blacktop instead of dirt.
Yeah. So we are. Going to jump in here just a little bit here with Dylan Hughes, who is the Royal Purple Formula Drift Pro Driver and in the 129 car. So we're going to be talking to him, and I'm excited because the whole world of Formula Drift, and as I've been doing some research here, it's got some interesting elements that I think we're going to have some interesting conversations as they relate over to the dirt world. But first, I want to jump right off here with this big announcement, and I shouldn't say everybody because we're sitting here, but there's a lot of people at the Big E right now.
Yeah.
And it was tough today. I had to drive to Dayton, Ohio to drop off some screens for Fresh Prints, and I just thought, I'm in Ohio. It's Dream Week. I'm driving back home. It was a little bit depressing.
Well, if I didn't have prior engagements on Saturday night, that's where we would be tonight. You know, that feels awful awkward not to be at Eldora during Dream Week, but some scheduling got screwed up, and we got to work Saturday night when we would be over at Eldora. So, you know, I hate that. We were there for the Johnny Appleseed.
Yeah, it looked like a good race too.
It was a good race. Yeah, I'm glad for Scott James to he started the tail of the feature and came all the way up to second place there. That was actually third. Ricky Weiss got second, but got expensive on the way home. We got within 45 minutes of home, and the front seal of my transmission went out, so we were stranded on the side of the road. So thanks to Chelsea's brother Chase for coming and getting the trailer, and Tim Clark for coming and getting the truck. So it got expensive when we got close to home, but it was a fun weekend.
Yeah, and so on top of that, you know, you talk about the Big E right now, and it's exciting. There's I think I saw right before we went on air, 73 cars have signed in. Obviously, the big one, Kyle Larson is at Eldora, you know, going to see what he can do to shake it up with these guys. I saw Bloomquist has already rolled in. The excitement, there's a lot that's going to go into this weekend.
Why are we here?
Well, it's a great question. I do got to give some love to my boy Britton Gotze. He did call me last night and offered me if I would ride over with him, he would pay my way in as long as I drive his car back tomorrow. So they didn't end up with two vehicles at Eldora, and that was tempting at 10:30 last night. But I had a commitment here to Dylan, and I wanted to make sure that we honored that. But I did put out a post here right before we went on air, Matt, and this is a throw out to all these crate drivers right now. And, you know, everything that's going on with the Indiana Pro Late Model Series is amazing and exciting stuff, and I'm excited to see where we go throughout the rest of the summer. We got some dates at Circle City. We got another date at Terre Haute. You know, some exciting things coming, but this is directly related to the big crate race at Thunder Valley Raceway next Friday night. And shout out to my business partner, Ryan Bowling and Dirt to Media, who bumped that from $800 to win to $1,000 to win. And the big announcement for any crate driver watching, and please let everybody know this, we want to try and pack the pits with crate late models that night, because I can't be outdone, and it's really Ryan's money part anyway. Not only is Dirt to Media going to make it $1,000 to win, but Thirsty Goat Entertainment's going to put another $250 on it. So it's a $1,250 to win crate late model race at Thunder Valley Raceway next Friday night. $1,250 to win right there at that bull ring. And I'm excited to see who we get to show up. I'm excited to see I don't know if I'm supposed to tell these secrets, but old Blackbeard himself was over at little dyno action today at Willie's. So coming right up on a big $1,250 to win crate race there at Thunder Valley.
That'll be interesting.
So from what I understand,
someone needs to call Midwest Sheet Metal, though, and let them know there's probably going to be some orders come in after the date.
They might want to have some stuff in stock for $1,250.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see some doors knocked off.
So, again, big announcement, and I want to just give a shout-out there to Misty and Steve Leonard for everything they're doing down there at Thunder Valley. And, and we appreciate it. You know, we've had a great turnout from support with Thirsty Goat Entertainment and what we're doing with the merch side of things with Fresh Prints. Don't forget Dirt Legend shirts, a limited run. They are on the website right now, shopthirstygoat.com. You can find them there. We've got Saturdays are for Victory Lane shirts. Kind of exciting, Matt. We also have the UPLA Local 812. That would be the United Pit Lizards of America. The Local 812 union there, proud supporter of that union of Pit Lizards of America. We also have the iHeart Models or Late Models T-shirts. So, guys, the more we get support with that stuff, and we greatly appreciate it. The more support we get, the more we can throw back to drivers. And so, again, next Friday night, June 18th, at Thunder Valley Raceway in Salem, Indiana, $1,250 to win crate late model race. So, guys, get there. It's going to be fun. Yeah,
if you got a crate late model, you probably need to show up down there.
But looking here, jumping back over to Brownstown Speedway, man, just to talk points here real quick, because obviously we were off last weekend. We're rained out the weekend before, so it's been a while since we've been at the track. And I'm hoping the weather is going to play fair here, even though it's Eldora week. But every time I think it's kind of stopped, we get another, drowning. But when you look at the points right now, you talk about the super late models. You got Jared Bailey and Devin Gilpin are 1 point apiece.
Yes.
Separated at 205 and 204 with Jared Bailey leading. But you can't look too far away with Shelby Miles in third with 198, Britton Gotze in fourth with 195, and Skylar Lewis in fifth with 184. You're talking 20, 21 points separating the top five right there in those super late models. That's going to be a battle that's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's going to carry on. You know, the next super race will be next Tuesday, which is the kickoff of Summer Nationals. So you're going to get a lot of names that ain't going to be there every week, and hopefully these guys can get in the mix and protect the points.
Yeah, making that show is going to be big. Yeah. Looking ahead there to those Backwoods Express UMP modifieds, Matt Boatneck. This modified class has been a lot of fun, and we've talked a lot about the youth in this class. When you talk about the Jordan Weavers, the Braden Watsons, even the Brent Lee with the being a Rookie of the Year candidate right there. Zach Stalker coming in second year there, but tried and true, man. Matt Boatneck at top points again.
Yeah, if he rolls out on the racetrack, you got to count him in the equation. He's. I would say right now, all the active drivers at Brownstown, he probably, that races there a lot. You can't count Devin out of that, but Devin's traveling a lot more now. Matt probably has more laps than anybody that rolls out there, week after week now.
And then you go to the P3 Graphics Indiana Pro Late Models, and again, water is wet and Tyler Neal is fast. And now I will say guys have started to catch up to him here a little bit. You've got Tyler Neal there in first place, Steve Peden in second, Zach Burton in third, Robert Rainey in fourth, and Justin Bowling in fifth there. But I do want to point out here, not to be kind of taken out of the mix, sixth place, Shelby Miles right there. And Shelby has kind of missed a race because of focusing on the super side of things. So depending on how many more races he kind of falls in there in those Indiana Pro late models, it's going to be interesting because I know Peden's got a wedding coming up. I know, there's some guys that are going to miss a couple races here. So this whole point structure can change pretty quick.
Well, the rain worked out for Raymond and Shelby because Raymond got married on our rain out. They were going to miss that week, and so the rain helped them out there, and they didn't miss a week of racing. So congratulations, Raymond Humphrey. Married.
Yeah, another winner on the Indiana Pro late models right there this year.
He's got a future win. So congratulations to him and Shelby winning the last time we raced.
Absolutely. Yeah, and again, that one, we talked about it a few years ago, talking about that super stock group and not taking anything away from now, but 2 or 3 years ago that was just so stout that anybody could pull off. That's this pro late model group now.
Yeah.
I mean, you read down through that, Tyler Neal can win any night. Steve Peden can win any night. Zach Burton hits the right setup. Zach Burton can wheel that thing to victory lane. Robert Rainey, it's coming.
Yeah,
I
agree.
I believe that's coming. Justin Bowling, I think it's coming for him. We talked to him on the pre-race show. He's got to get a little more aggressive and attack some of those lines.
He needs to quit worrying about what am I going to break and just focus on racing. He reminds me when Darrell Waltrip first became a car owner, he started worrying about the check that he's going to have to write, for racing. And I really wish that, Justin could get in there and race and not worry about that pocketbook one night. And I think he would see huge results.
And then you talk about Shelby Miles. Can win any night. Keaton Streville, Alan Magner, Colton Sullivan, Raymond Humphrey, Brian Wilhite, Josh Bowler. And one that, I think is a dark horse any night he shows up, there's Tyler Kane. And he's kind of bounced in and out of the Indiana Pro late models, but I'm telling you, that guy can show up any night and win. Mm-hmm. So you're talking 12 to 15 deep.
You got to put Tyler Collins in there, too.
Tyler Collins, absolutely. You know what? I didn't because he's kind of bounced around a little bit, and I didn't. Jeremy Owens is another one. Picked up a win at Thunder Valley just a couple weeks ago.
Well, you got Tyler Collins. Last time he was at Brownstown, they raced the night before at Moeller, and realized he was broke after he got to Brownstown, had to leave.
Yes, so, you're right.
That unfortunate there for him, but he's another one you just cannot rule out of. He could go to victory lane.
That's what I mean. You're 12 to 15 drivers deep that can win on any given night, and going back to Tyler Neal, and I tease all the time because you talk about that, water is wet and Neal is fast, but, he's done such a great job of trying to stay up front, but everybody's chasing him and catching up now. Then as we look at the Pewter Hall Super Stocks, JT Huffman again leading that thing, and, he's talked about, was he going to try and race points and what it would mean, and but holding on right there, following him, Brad Fry in second, Zach Sasser in third, Derek Clegg in fourth, Tommy East in fifth. And again, shout out to Tommy, man. First-time feature winner there.
Well, JT also.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point. All-in-one Pools Pure Stocks, Dustin Carr in first place there, Tommy Fleener. And this is another group here as you look down this list. Dalton Rourke's got a couple wins on the year.
Yeah.
Dustin Carr has been extremely strong. Keaton Streville's in this group as well. There's a lot of guys, and you can't ever count out the good old dirt track Donnie Wilson.
Right on, yeah.
And so
that is one gentleman probably more upset than we are.
Oh, the 100%.
That he can't be over in Rossburg this weekend. So because he is racing for points at Brownstown.
I'm just hoping he brings his grill to Brownstown.
Yeah.
Because, that would be, if he wants to cook Saturday night, just to keep the traditions up.
I agree with you.
All right. Well, Matt, we are going to take our first break for our sponsors here, and we're going to get Dylan Hughes again, Formula Drift Pro driver for the Royal Purple 129 car, and we're going to get to talk to him. So we'll be right back with him. Race Clean Products is the cleanest brand in motorsports. No matter if you're using the original or the all-new Fast Hands formula, you are guaranteed to keep your hands clean under the most intense racing situations. The original or blue formula is perfect to keep at the sink in your race shop and will ensure that you won't come home covered in grease and grime. But for those unavoidable messes at the track, and you don't have time for a sink in water, be sure to have a bottle of Fast Hands in your trailer. It could be your most important tool. Race Clean products can be found at www.goraceclean.com. Dirt to Media continues to expand its coverage of local racing for race fans. They've expanded to over 70 live events for the 2021 racing season. The live event schedule includes live weekly racing from Brownstown Speedway, Salem Speedway, and Thunder Valley. VIP members can still get all their on-demand racing coverage the next day for one monthly fee. And their monthly fee also includes live racing action each week from Thunder Valley Raceway. In addition to all of this local action, be on the lookout for special events from regional tracks around the Midwest. If you aren't getting your racing action from dirt2media.tv, you're missing out on the best coverage in the Midwest.
Gilpin Electric and Generator Services is a customer-first company that takes care of all your electric and generator needs. They are your go-to dealer, installer, and generator service company. Don't be stuck without power during severe weather this year. Contact Gilpin Electric and Generator Services on Facebook or call them at 812-953-1261.
We've all heard horror stories about insurance companies and insurance agents. Let me tell you about my family's agent, Tommy Taylor. Tommy is an agent at Indiana Farm Bureau Insurance and is a multi-line agent that can keep all your insurance in one place. Why is a dedicated agent so important? When you have the unexpected occur, you'd much rather know the person on the other end of the phone. Contact info for Tommy, 812-372-4483 at extension 2447, or look him up on Facebook at Tommy Taylor, Indiana Farm Bureau Insurance. Don't be another horror story. Stop knocking on wood and relying on a 1-800 number. Trust Tommy Taylor today. All right, and guys, we're back, and we're going to welcome in Dylan Hughes with us. And Dylan, welcome to Throttled Up the podcast, brother.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. How you doing?
Good, man. Hey, I'm going to jump right in here with this because obviously, you and I kind of talked here a little bit before we got on air, but typically we follow the dirt world. We follow a little bit of asphalt racing, but this drifting stuff I'm kind of new to. Well, actually, I'm really new to. But to kind of start your background story, you grew up in North Bend, Washington, and kind of started out as an amateur drifter. Got into tuner cars. Like, how did this kind of transpire to become a career for you?
Well, growing up in kind of a small town in the Northwest, my dad had a pretty sweet shop. So we had a hydraulic lift and a couple of welders and tools and everything. So I was always the kid in high school that I was always hacking mufflers off people's cars. So I was that guy. So I probably did, every time somebody got a new truck or got a new car or whatever, I was the guy to cut the exhaust off and get them, they weld that thing back together. So definitely kind of come from a background of working on stuff, grew up racing and riding motorcycles on and off road. And really we were pretty heavy into the trucks. So I was into like solid axle Toyotas and wheeling and all that kind of stuff, kind of going out in the woods because we've got a lot of sweet wheeling spots out in the Northwest. So really just kind of started off with that. And then my buddy had like a piece of crap 5-liter Mustang. And he had a super long driveway that was paved, and he was like, get in one day. And I jump in there and we just do burnouts all the way up and down his driveway and, kind of like drifting and sliding around. And I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever done in my life. So from that point on, I decided, I was like, man, I'm tired of going slow rock crawling. You know what I mean? Like, I want to go fast. I want to scare myself. So that's kind of where the obsession came from, was just going for a ride with my buddy. And then I ended up buying a Nissan 240 with a little SR turbo 4-cylinder in it. And that's really where it came from, man. That's it.
So then you went to Dirtfish Rally School, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And that's so was that kind of the first thing you thought was maybe rally instead of drifting?
Yeah, I think with Dirtfish, it was kind of an opportunity to get my foot in the door in some sort of racing, anything. Essentially, at that time, I wanted to work on a rally team or work on drift cars or just be a part of more racing. I was doing underground work for a construction company, and it was fine. It made great money, but it wasn't what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, right? So got my foot in the door at Dirtfish. I knew how to run equipment, so I was like the tractor guy, grading the course back together for all these guys who go out there and mess it up. So I did that for about 6 months and was like over that, super ready to get into something else. And they ended up opening up a position in the shop where I was able to go in there and learn how to fabricate a little bit better. So the guy who taught me how to do roll cages and bend tube and fabricate proper, his name is Derek Nelson. And I stayed after work and kind of learned how to do that. Kind of helped him on a couple of side projects. We started caging cars together. And then super random, Dirtfish decided to sponsor a rallycross team. So we ended up sponsoring the Red Bull Dodge Rallycross team of Travis Pastrana and Bryce Menzies. This was like right when I turned 21. They had a couple issues with a couple of mechanics, and they were like, we need somebody to go work at traveling to these events, international events. So 21 years old, they're just like, hey, you were here for like the whole build process of these cars. You want to go to Barcelona? And I was like, yep, sure do. And they're like, all right, sick, you're going in 2 weeks. So long story short, ended up traveling the whole 2013 season with Pastrana and Menzies as a mechanic. Barcelona, Spain, Munich, Germany, all over the States. Kind of a crazy deal. And so the third time I was in Vegas that year for SEMA, we were running a race out there. I ended up meeting Chris Forsberg, who's a legendary pro drifter. Yeah. I ended up meeting his crew chief. We ended up actually working together. So, hey, I'm Dylan. Hey, I'm Brian Wilkerson. I'm crew chief on Chris Forsberg's pro drift team. And I'm just like, oh my God, like this is crazy. What are the chances, So we broke down all weekend, and I kept harassing him. I was like, hey, if you need help next year on the team, let me know. So literally one day, a couple of months later, my phone rang. It was some Pennsylvania number, and I answered it. Hey, Dylan, this is Chris Forsberg. And I'm like, no way. You've got to be kidding me. So long story short, ended up flying down to Long Beach for round 1 of FD, and we worked together from 2014 to we still share a shop to this day. So kind of a crazy deal. It's weird to think about.
It really is, because it accelerated so quickly for you. You're doing construction work, like you said, it's not your passion, and then everything kind of accelerated so fast right there to kind of get to where you are. I think one of the coolest things that kind of connects to the world of dirt racing that we're in is we talk all the time about you got to know your car. You got to be able to work on your car and understand what's going on. And how important do you think that background of being a mechanic and a fabricator and those kind of things has helped you in your pro drift career?
I mean, immensely. I don't think that it would be possible without having any sort of skills, being able to work on cars or fabricate or weld or, anything you might have to do. At the end of the day, a lot of that stuff comes down to money, and racing comes down to money. So when you don't have a lot of money, how are you going to be able to afford to pay somebody to do top dollar work on your car? You can't. You physically can't. It's not possible. So the way that I looked at it is I had to do it myself, or else it wasn't going to happen. So that was kind of the route that I chose, and that I decided was just like, okay, no one's going to do it for me. Like, I might as well just try and figure out how to do it myself. So those were skills that I really became obsessed with. Like, I really just wanted to be way good at fabricating and building cool stuff and building reliable cars, and something that I'm proud to show off for people to see. So I think it's absolutely paramount. You know what I mean? Unless you can afford to pay someone to do it, like, no one's going to do it for you.
Did the rally school, did it have asphalt tracks that you could practice to drift on, or did you kind of learn that after the fact?
A little bit. We used to have, we would call them employee training days, and we would go out there and we had a couple of beater cars that we would take on the gravel sometimes, and then sometimes we would like pressure wash off a big area out in front of the shop, and we would go out there and swing the drift cars around. And this was before we really knew what we were doing, we didn't even have angle kits yet. We didn't really have, V8s or horsepower yet. We were just kind of like out there messing around, seeing what we could do, and it was still an absolute riot. So that's definitely where I got some of my practice at. Yeah.
All right, I admit, like Dustin, I'm a novice with the drifting too. So what's an angle kit? What did you miss out on that?
Oh yeah, all right. So let's get nitty gritty with it. So an angle kit. So the whole point of drifting is to go as sideways as possible, as fast as possible. So what we do with our cars is say that my competition car is a BMW E46. That E46 only has about, I would say, 40 degrees of steering angle from the factory. So you think about the tires only turn about this far. So what you do is you widen the track width, and then you shorten the knuckle pickup. So essentially that steering rack can give you much more steering angle, just like you guys do on your dirt cars. And therefore you can get like way crazy with the way that you drive the car. You can put a bunch of rear grip in the car by lowering tire pressure, running a softer spring rate, or different sway bar options. And you can take that thing and you can just chuck it in 90 degrees to whatever you're aiming at, you know what I mean? So it's just a very, very, very aggressive way of driving the car is what an angle kit helps you achieve. So big steering angle, big throttle, big initiations. It's all good fun.
Well, and we were talking before we went on air that there is a lot of crossover, especially when we're talking dirt late model world. you know, late models today don't go straight like they did 30 or 40 years ago. Everything's about how you can slide them through the corners and then get that bite coming off. So there really is some translation here from the drift world to what we see every week.
Yeah, I think so too, especially the cars without the big wings on top of them. I see those guys driving at crazy angle, and we don't necessarily run staggered tires size, but we can run staggered spring rates, we can run staggered tire pressure, and even staggered sway bars help us as well. We're mostly independent rear suspension on pretty much all the drift cars, so we end up running a bunch of toe to try and get that dig. The tires that I run on my car now is a 290/540 GT radial. It's an 18-inch wheel. And usually competition comes around, I run them at about 10, 12 PSI.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
The tires only last about 2 laps. So what you'll do is you'll go, the higher car that qualifies higher, you'll lead. You'll do an entire lap based on a certain layout that they want you to do. If you straighten, you lose. So you have to be drifting the whole time, no matter what. And then you switch places, and then the car that just led will chase. And then after that, they'll decide a winner. So then it would be, depending on your car, everybody get a new set of tires. It'd be about 2 gallons of fuel and about 4 pounds of nitrous in my car. Maybe 3.
And for those who don't know, just to go back, and again, I'm a novice, so you can jump in and explain it, but drifting is a judged competition. So
Judge competition, yeah.
So for those who don't know, you qualify, and then it actually staggers out a 32 tandem bracket, basically.
Head-to-head bracket, yep.
If everybody thinks of like March Madness for our dirt fans, and this is Indiana, so we have to think basketball to get through things. But it's a bracket, and you're paired up in that tandem with a leader and a chase car. And can you kind of explain? Obviously, the leader's setting the pace and the angle, and the chase is basically mimicking that to the best of their ability, correct?
Yep, that's right. So essentially what we do, the higher qualifier leads first. So, 32 versus number 1, 31 versus number 2, so on and so forth. They have a certain section on the track that they want you to run. And maybe we're not necessarily looking for the fast line through the track. It's whatever flows the best. And when I say what flows the best is what's the most dynamic to watch? What's the most impressive? So what we'll do is we'll usually take, say, a 5/8 mile oval. We'll run it backwards sometimes. We'll run it regular sometimes. But you'll initiate into that bank, and they will want you to drag your back bumper on the top side of the wall the whole way around. So you're sideways bouncing off the wall the whole way around, but trying to keep it as smooth as possible in the lead position. The chase car is trying to mimic exactly your perfect line as close as they possibly can without hitting you. So you can imagine that there's a fair amount of room for some carnage to happen.
Oh, yeah.
There's people ramming into each other, people flying off track. It's the best. So yeah, that would be called outside zone 1. So that would be, you'd get judged on that one zone depending on how good you do. And at the end of the day, the car that runs the tightest tandem wins. So essentially, you leading first might be a little bit of an advantage, just because then you can talk to your spotter who's up in the tower watching and be like, okay, how did he do in the chase position? Because in the lead, you're just locked in doing what you got to do, and you're just kind of you're trying to not listen to their car because they're like literally riding passenger with you, almost touching. So kind of got to put that aside, and they can say, okay, well, he messed up coming off of the bank. You gapped him by about 2 lengths across the center, and then you were able to, he got back onto you. Okay, so you just have to do better than that, essentially. So it's kind of crazy. It's definitely crazy.
And a big part of it too is, from what I understand, and it's the same thing obviously in the dirt world too. You don't want to be seen making adjustments. I mean, steering adjustments. You want to be as smooth and set that car up so it drifts without a bunch of sawing on the wheel, is what we would call it.
Yep, definitely. And that comes down to a lot of car setup. That's the spring rates we were talking about, the sway bar, the tire pressure. We have a lot of different things that kind of. It's easy to mess your car up and put too much grip into it, so you're fighting it. The car doesn't want to be fluid and stable around the track, but there also is a fine line, because at the end of the day, the fastest car still kind of wins. Because if you can put more grip in your car in the lead position, you can pull a gap on that guy, and then if your car is fast and easy to drive, you can stay real close to that dude when you come back into your chase position. So at the end of the day, the fastest car still wins, and the cars are getting faster and faster every year. And a lot of the cars out there, like, you're not really competitive unless you're north of 850 wheel horsepower.
Oh, wow. There's a whole lot of trust in that too, right? I mean, since you guys race so close, I mean, because you could accidentally screw, both of you guys up when you get that close, right?
Yeah. And, that's kind of one of those hurdles that you have to overcome. It's just at any time, you got to be ready to just put both of your cars on the line and just do what needs to be done. And that's run doors, you know what I mean? So it is. And that's what's hard about it, is committing through the smoke. And that's the other thing that you have to remember is these cars, it goes through a set of tires every 2 laps. So that thing is spinning the tires so fast that it is absolutely billowing tire smoke off of the back of the car. So the thing is, you need to stay close to the car or you can't see. And when I mean you can't see, I mean you cannot see at all, like at all. So if you get lost in the smoke, if you say that you flick into a corner and you overshoot in the chase position and he gets on the gas before you, you're going to end up in their smoke. And then you're just 100% driving blind at 85 miles an hour towards a wall. So there really isn't that much room for error. You know what I mean? I wish everybody could go for a ride. It's sketchy sometimes, but it's fun.
One of the pictures that I got sent for some of our, pre-post stuff on social media, it took me looking at it 2 or 3 times to realize you were in the lead position and that there was a car behind you just because of where where the smoke was. And finally I'm like, there's a second car there. Like it took me forever to even notice that it was there, because you're exactly right. It just disappears.
Yeah. I mean, holding that thing, especially when you're locked in going one way, it's okay. But then as soon as you go to transfer, you essentially have a wall of smoke that's just completely blinding you. So you can't necessarily see exactly where you're supposed to aim the car. So a lot of it is trying to figure out your muscle memory and your timing during practice. Just go out there, practice, get lost in the smoke and be like, okay, transfer about now. Oh, that was too early. Try it again. Oh, that was a little too late. And so it's kind of good to have that mental clock inside of your head. And I think that that's what separates the guys who are really, really good versus the guys that are pretty good, is just having that, being able to drive blind essentially is a whole thing.
So when you go to these different tracks, do they set a different course up each time? Is it the same course? How does that work?
So it just depends on the track that we're at. Sometimes we'll go and run like an oval track with a bank. Sometimes we'll go and run like the infield of a NASCAR track, so it's like a flat infield. So pretty much every single track is different. Some of them flow better than others. Some of them we really have to worry about tire wear. Sometimes the tires don't even last 2 laps. And when they get down there and they're tread, it becomes absolute ice. So you need to be really, really careful. You can plan your wheel speed on it. There's a couple different things that you can do and try and stay out of the pedal as much as you can to try and make the tires last. But I'll tell you, when the tires go away, it is not a good thing. It's sketchy. And the fact that tires don't last 2 laps is pretty ridiculous.
You have to have a tire sponsor, with your guys' group there, right? I mean, you have to.
100%. We switched tires this year, so we're on the GT Radial. It's an awesome tire. It's got a big sidewall on it, and I really like the feel of that. So you can put grip in the car, take that thing, throw it in straight 90 degrees or even backwards, and it will pull out of it pretty much every time. And also having a big tire, they last longer, which is good compared to what we ran last year. So loving the GT Radials.
So as we look ahead, though, you talk about some of these different, different tracks. What's some of your favorite places to go race?
I will say, round 1 this year was in Road Atlanta, Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. Something about that track, it's a legendary track. We only run a small section of it, so we come down like the back straightaway. So the initiation is downhill. So what we do, it's about 105 mile an hour entry. So you're coming down the hill, crank it in, try and chuck it 90 degrees, get back on the throttle, you're going back up the hill. It's super blind. You don't really have any visual cues to know when you need to check up. And then we run what they call a keyhole, run an outside zone, hit an inside clip, transfer going back the way that you just came, and then finish going back up the hill and just fill the whole place with tire smoke. And sometimes the car shoots flames and lots of rev limiter. And it's a racetrack, man. It's a good time. I love it. Road Atlanta's sick.
I mean, the thing is that I have to say, Matt, like this is really the best thing about it's like a constant celebration at a normal racetrack the whole time. I mean, it's tire smoke, it's excitement, we're going to have to make an event. That's for sure.
Well, he gets to do for a living.
That's
Go ahead, man.
That's what's cool about it, is I think that it's kind of designed almost for the younger demographic, where it's really intense for 2 minutes, and then you kind of like sit around, wait for like 4 or 5 minutes until the next pair is ready to go while the judges are deciding who wins. But like as the cars come in, it's just right there smack dab in front of you. It's like super dynamic. People are going to wreck or they're not, and then it's over like that, and then you kind of move on to the next. So it's just like you got your full attention for a couple minutes at a time, and then you can kind of hang out, chat with your friends. And I think that's why it does so well with the kind of the younger crowd, because it's like it's very dynamic. It's pretty cool.
That I like that a lot.
I was going to say he gets to do for a living what we all did when we thought we was out of view of our parents when we were teenagers, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's what.
Donuts in a parking lot.
Well,
yeah.
It's the same thing. Oh, I used to drift before it was called drifting.
Yeah.
It was just called donuts in a parking lot.
That's right, yeah.
I was going to say, Dylan, I'm a high school principal in my day job, and Matt is our school resource officer, and our back parking lot is famous anytime there's any kind of snow that, I mean, the amount of donuts cut back there is unbelievable. And the sad thing is I should be the adult that stops that, but I'm usually the one that gets back there before anyone else just to see what I can do. So
Gotta go out and turn up the fresh snow. For the
yeah, I got at least to make sure everything's all right for him back there.
Of course.
But
Responsible of you. I love it.
absolutely. So your next race, though, is June 18th and 19th. You're going to be at Englishtown in New Jersey. And I know you and I talked previously. Your rig is already out there at the racetrack. So when we talk about like that kind of weekly prep, I know you said you're leaving Saturday to head out there. Is there a little extra, stress or pressure that you've not been around the car?
Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, it doesn't really make sense to drive it from Orlando back to Southern California only 2 weeks later to drive it back to New Jersey, So leaving it out there always stresses me out. I hate being away from it. But the place is all locked up. It's pretty secure. I know the owner of the property personally. He's a good friend of mine. So I feel good about it. But coming in, that's why I want to come in a couple days early. We want to get some re-prep done on the car. There's one or two things that I want to look over in the engine. It's been super happy with us. It's a Toyota engine. It's a 2JZ out of a Toyota Supra. So it's a twin cam inline 6-cylinder iron block aluminum head. It's got a big old turbo hanging off the side of it. Does about 950 horsepower to the wheels.
Wow.
4-speed NASCAR transmission through a triple disc clutch. Clutches are fairly decent wear items for us. We run it's a 7 1/4 ACT triple is what we run with a 26 plant input in the NASCAR trans. So we'll check the clutch out. We'll yank the box out. We'll check the clutch out, make sure it's all happy. Give it a compression test and a leak down. I wanted to put it back on the dyno and confirm a couple of hunches that I have with the camshafts that we have in it. But really, we're going to make a couple of wrap changes, so it changes the visual look of the car depending on what round it is. So we got a nice little laundry list of stuff that we got going on. But I got my dad coming out. He helps me out all the time. It's like me and him always working on the car. He helped me build it and everything. So I got a real good relationship with my pops. And then my little brother actually does the vinyl work on it. So it's definitely a whole family thing. That's how we run it.
That's awesome. And for our listeners, if you're looking for, probably the best opportunity to get to go to a Formula Drift event and see Dylan, it would probably be August 27th, 28th, St. Louis, Missouri. Be a handful of hours away from us, but not a terrible drive. So if anybody is wanting to go check this out, and I'm going to be definitely checking my weekend, August 27th and 28th, because I would love to come out and watch one of these events.
Yeah, no, that'd be cool. Also, if you're not available to go out there and make it out there in person, which is always a good time, they do have it on live stream. They live stream it on YouTube, so you can just punch in Formula D. It'll come up. They have the whole thing is broadcasted live, practice, qualifying, and through the race into the night. So the online is pretty good. They've gotten it better over the past couple of years, trying to make sure there's not too much lag or not breaking up too bad. But it's definitely an option if you can't make it out there as well.
Very cool. And I want to jump into this before we take off, because I do want to give you a chance to talk about your sponsors. We do that with everybody we're here. But the big one that helped lead to the connection for the opportunity for me and Matt to interview you tonight, Dylan, is Royal Purple, man. And they have come on. And I don't know that for a lot of people out there, I don't know that there's a better company right now that is positioning itself to really get into motorsports and help drivers and series and all the things they're trying to do right now than Royal Purple. So kind of how did your relationship with Royal Purple start, and what do you got to say about them?
Well, first off, I will say that I started working with Royal Purple back in the Dirtfish days. So when I was working on that team and doing the re-prep on all the rally cars and grading the course back together, Royal Purple was the official oil of Dirtfish Rally School. So I have poured literally hundreds and hundreds of quarts into these rally cars when I was changing the oil in them. And then moving forward, they kind of split ways. They did whatever. So I even had like old Royal Purple shirts that I used to wear back in 2013 and, hats and all that stuff. And then I was reintroduced to them by a friend of mine who used to work at another company that sponsors me. She moved over to Royal Purple, and we kind of like reignited that flame. And it was kind of a cool story where I was like, hey, like, I used to work with Dirtfish, and I, pouring a bunch of oil through the cars, and we kind of just reconnected that way through essentially just a friend who ended up working there. And then we kind of just took the relationship to where it is now. And incredibly thankful for Royal Purple, man. They have been so supportive of me, and they make an awesome product. People say, oh, you actually run their oil? It's like, yes, I run their oil. I've been to their lab. They know what they're talking about. I send them back oil samples every time I change the oil in my car, and we go back and forth and talk about it. And the gear oil is great. Their XPR 550 that I run in my 1,000 horsepower 2JZs, it's all good stuff. I run their ice, their water wetter. I run everything.
And it is cool. One of our local drivers, Steve Peden, came on board with them this year and has them on the car. And he, it's the same kind of thing. He was like, it's unbelievable how good the product is. But he gets the same thing. Like, do you really run their stuff? And he's like, yeah, it's
yes,
awesome.
Yeah, of course I do.
Like, it's not just a sticker. Like, this is really good stuff.
I trust it with my engines, and I ran mine at 850 to 950 wheel horsepower last year on a little 3-liter inline six, ramming nitrous through it, running 30 pounds of boost through it. I ran that for 8 events, more than 8 events, just banging that thing off the rev limiter at 8,600 RPM the whole time. And the engine came apart perfect. I was dumbfounded.
That's the thing right there. If that's not for what you do to an engine and the abuse you send it to, if that's not a calling card right there for Royal Purple, I don't know what would be.
Yeah. I mean, it's about as tough as you could possibly be. The thing is, absolutely at its max on the rev limiter for minutes at a time, and it takes it.
So who are some of those other sponsors that help you out getting to the track and everything? Yeah,
so GT Radial is the tire one, man. That's a big one for us because we go through so many tires in a year that it's literally not possible without a tire sponsor. So I'd like to shout out GT Radial. They've been great to me this year. If they're a new sponsor for us this year, and I'm just really stoked to get on that big boy 295 because that's quite a bit bigger of a tire than I was running last year, which is good for us. We have Permatex products. They've been great with us. So they make all of your, all your gasket makers, all your thread lockers. I mean, they make literally like 1,000 different products. And I'm lucky enough to have them as a title on a couple different rounds for me. Lots of part sponsors. Brian Crowder helping me out with engine parts. Super Tech Valve Train. Engine Supply puts our 2JZs together. ACT clutches. Drive Shaft Shop axles. We got Advan Racing Yokohama wheels on our car. We got a lot of people helping us out. It's pretty impressive to see kind of where it has come from, and I just feel incredibly lucky. Like it's I can't believe I get to do this for a living. It's pretty cool.
And so what going ahead, what's your goals for the rest of this year?
I mean, we came in Pro 2, which is essentially the lower version of Pro 1 that we run in now. And me and my good friend from the Northwest, we went back and forth for the championship. I ended up getting second overall. He ended up winning, but it was me and him on the podium pretty much every single time. So I got a bunch of carbon trophies in Pro 2, but now that we've leveled up to Pro 1, these are guys who've been doing it for 20 years. So these dudes are really, really gnarly. So if I can figure out a way to finish top 10 at the end of the year and get myself one of those carbon trophies, if I could get on the podium, I think that is a realistic goal that I'm really shooting for this year. That would be really cool.
And I got to give you credit too. That was one thing. I watched an interview with you on the Formula Drift website, doing some preparation for this, and you talked about how important realistic goals are for you. And I think that's something that a lot of drivers sometimes they throw out these crazy goals, and it's being realistic and allowing yourself to go achieve those, I think, will make you more successful in the long run.
I believe so too. I mean, of course, when we show up, I'm ready to win. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That's what I want more than anything. But at the end of the day, we're talking about dudes who have been doing this professionally since 2003. So I didn't even know what drifting was in 2003. I was 11 years old. So
you did. It was donuts,
how long
man.
These guys have been doing this.
You knew in 2003 it was called donuts. Remember?
Yeah, exactly. Believe it or not, the very first Formula Drift event was in Road Atlanta, 2003. And Chris Forsberg was at that event and I think got second place.
Wow.
And so that's the dude I'm competing against,
And that is amazing. Like when you look at, and even the, as novice as I am in the drift world, I've heard Chris Forsberg's name. Like he's won every, avenue of motorsports has that one name that whether you whether you are a diehard fan or you just know a little bit, they cross over. And Forsberg is definitely that guy in the drift world for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Another name, Von Gittin Jr. He's a factory-backed Ford driver. Him and Chelsea didn't know if around the Mustangs. Those Mustangs are like the gnarliest cars of all time. Those guys got a pretty solid program put together. The Papadakis Racing Team, based out of Southern California, they're a factory-backed Toyota team. So they're running the new Supra with a B58 engine. Ryan Turk, all these dudes are just legendary guys. Dio Shihara, Ken Gushi, all these different guys who've been in it since the very beginning. And they've been in it for a reason. Like, the dudes absolutely shred. So here I am, my second year with my own car, and I'm like, all right, let's go beat these guys. You know what I mean? So it's a learning process, but I can wheel a car pretty good, and I'm confident that my time will come.
That's awesome. And if there's somebody out there, that's watching tonight, that's a young kid that says, this is what I want to do, what advice would you give them to get into the drifting world?
Man, just accept the fact real early on that nobody's going to do it for you. Nobody's going to put in the work. Nobody's going to help you to where you want to be. People will help you, but you need to already have the forward momentum that comes within yourself. You're going to have to deal with a lot of crap along the way. It's not a smooth path. It's a very rocky, very expensive, very annoying path. But at the end of the day, if you want it bad enough, you can do it. And I think that I'm a true testament to that, because I don't come from money. My parents helped me out when they could, but a lot of this is just, moving from Washington to Baltimore, Maryland at 22 years old to go and work on a race team, and then did that for a couple of years, go back to Washington, work in Oregon for a year on a race team, end up in SoCal. You got to go where the work is, and you got to go what you truly think deep down inside is going to make it, make it for yourself. So at the end of the day, just don't ever, ever, ever give up, and just don't expect anybody to hold your hand, because nobody will.
And I love that advice. And I think one of the coolest things, again, about your story, too, is, and you said it there when we were talking about Royal Purple, be willing to do whatever jobs you can go get. It may be changing oil on the, the grader when you're grading the track back at a Dirtfish, rally school. And I'm not knocking that at all. That's your foot in the door to get the next step, So, keep yourself humble, keep yourself ready to work. And, I think you've got an amazing story, man. And, I'm really pumped that we got a chance to talk to you.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much. And, I hope to meet you guys around sometime. I really appreciate your time.
Absolutely, man. And we wish you the best of luck. And, again, check out, all the live streams. If you can't make it out August 27th, 28th, you can, check them out at St. Louis. But Dylan Hughes in the Royal Purple, Formula Drift Pro car, repping it right there. And, Dylan, man, we appreciate you, and we wish you all the best.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. I'll catch you soon, all right?
All right, man. Thank you. Well, Matt, I got to say, man, that was an education. We've now went to rally school with Karen Jankowski.
Yeah.
We're now drift school, but I think bucket list, we need to make a rally event and we need to make a drift event.
I agree with you.
950 rear wheel horse.
That's impressive.
With just basically a roll cage inside of a BMW is pretty wild.
And driving it sideways. I mean, you got to think about it. He's got more horsepower than some drag racers do.
Yes.
And they go in a straight line, and he's driving sideways less than an inch away from a wall or another competitor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he's driving it how every NASCAR driver on Sunday complains when their car is.
Yeah, except for Larson.
Yeah. Larson may be the one guy who could transfer over to Drift World as well and probably cut it. I do think it's really intriguing, the judging aspect. And I honestly forgot to mention, but I wanted to ask him, but I wonder how much controversy comes in play with that, because, like when you, and he did say 9 times out of 10, the fastest car still wins.
Yeah.
But you think about, even in our world, in the dirt world, when the tower or official or flagman has to make a call, there's always 87 different views of the way that call was made. So
and it depends on who you're rooting for, how the view comes through.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're talking about bias?
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, those judges must be put up somewhere, and none of the competitors are
Oh,
told where they're at.
Yes.
You know,
They're at a location not to be
they're
released.
like, hey, all the judges are in that building to the right, and they're really to the left. You know, yeah. Because in dirt racing, if there's ever a call, you got somebody beating on the back door of the tower. You know,
And that's what I wonder. I wonder, and I should have asked, but is it something where they go into this knowing that it's a judge competition and maybe they get it, or I don't know, because I that part is really interesting to me, and the whole idea of the bracket is really interesting to me.
But I was confused with the fastest car wins, because if you're the trail car, how are you the fastest car? I guess I'm lost with that. If the guy's out front and you follow him, there isn't a pass. You know, I guess in my mind, I'm still thinking racing, and you got to be in the lead.
Well, I think when he says the fastest, it's because so if you're the lead car and I'm the chase car, you're setting the tempo. So you're pushing it as hard as you think you can. If I can stay door to door with you, that means I can run right with you.
Okay.
Then when I'm the lead car, if you can't keep up with me, I'm the faster car.
Okay.
So I think, if I'm understanding it correctly, I think that's what he meant.
Because I kept trying to think, how's the trail car ever get the lead? You know, I was lost with that.
And I'll be honest, like I obviously, I was very upfront. I'm a novice. I don't know a whole lot about drift cars or drift competition. But it was cool when I was kind of, researching this, because like I said, I looked at that one picture. I had no clue there was a second car. and he's exactly right, and I'll have to pull it up. I don't know if I can pull up. I've got these images here that'll shuffle. Let me see if I can get this.
That's impressive.
So, and again, I think it's so amazing to hear him talk about the difference between being on a bank surface to a flat track to the ability to control those things and do it with, the style and all that kind of stuff is just wild to me.
Oh, yeah. And, you listen to him talk about growing up, he really didn't have a background in that.
No, he was rock crawling.
Yeah.
I mean,
and he rode, motorcycles, so it's like all of a sudden he totally transitions to something else.
And, it's another story, and that's why I wanted to bring that up there at the end. And I hope that, a young, if there's young kids out there, or, somebody listens to this and thinks, I want to get a shot in the motorsports world. And I think people have to understand this. And it goes back to, the Chase Briscoe story.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a cat that's running every Sunday now for Tony Stewart Racing, his hero who he grew up with. Chase left and went to North Carolina and pushed a broom.
Yep.
With no promise. Just said, let me in the shop. I'll push a broom. You need to humble yourself to get into these areas.
But I think you also, after you get in those areas, you need to stay humble, and that's something Chase has done.
100%.
There's been a whole lot of other people that have moved up and bettered themselves in the motorsports world, and they forget where they come from sometimes. And
100%. Keep yourself in check.
And that's one thing I'll give Chase credit for. He has not forgotten about Mitchell, Indiana one time in his career so far.
No, and that's what I love about it. And you heard it there in Dillon too,
Yeah.
My dad gets to come with me next weekend. My brother's coming to do the vinyl. Like it's not this, somebody else will make sure the vinyl's on. Somebody else there's pride in it. So, I think sometimes everybody gets so fast ahead that, oh man, I want to be at this level, or I want to go do this, or it's important that I do this. You got to do some of the grunt stuff, and you got to be willing to, put yourself out there in order to get those opportunities.
Oh, I agree.
But right there, and then when the opportunity comes, you got to be willing to jump. Like he said, 21 years old, you want to go to Barcelona because you're leaving in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's terrifying, but you want to do it. It's Travis Pastrana, man. You better go.
I think the more terrifying thing would be moving from Washington State all the way to the East Coast
to Baltimore.
with nothing. I mean, really, you're not established. And then, now you got to move back. Now you got to move here. And, if you really want to chase that dream, you pretty much got to go wherever it takes you.
Absolutely.
And like you said, be willing to do anything. And I like what he said, don't give up and nobody's going to hold your hand.
Yeah.
That was probably the greatest advice I ever heard because, that is life. And nobody's going to hold your hand.
You're the only one that's going to make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do want to give a big shout out here to a good buddy of ours and former guest on the show, but JP Hayden, who works there at Royal Purple Performance Products, and JP has been a great partner with us here. Not only helping sponsor Steve Peden, coming in with the Indiana Pro Late Models this year with the Quick Time Award, giving away some product, definitely building that relationship here with the regional racers, but also setting up this opportunity for us to talk in something outside of our realm. And again, I know the dream's going on tonight. I know there's some big things going on with Eldora, but this was fun.
Robert Rainey's almost won enough quick times now. He can make an oil change and go to, Royal Purple.
Yeah. He picks up another one. He's pretty much got a whole set of oil.
Yeah, that's that's awesome. And I was also going to tell Dylan, back in the day, everybody had a buddy that had a 5.0 Mustang. That's like having buddies with Jeeps now. That was you always had that buddy that had the Mustang. So when he said that, I was like, oh, and I guarantee everybody heard that. Oh, I had a buddy with a 5.0 Mustang.
Even now, the difference is when in your era. And this isn't even an old joke. In your era, those 5.0 Mustangs were new. In my era, they were getting pretty ratty and rough. Yeah. But we still had a buddy with a 5.0 Mustang. Yeah.
I actually seen those sitting on the new car lots. Like, my gosh, have you seen this 5.0 Mustang?
Yeah. The old Fox bodies.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the best.
Those are the most beautiful Mustangs ever made, I think. So
one of my good buddies in high school, this is that story, had a Fox body 5.0 Police Interceptor Mustang. Yes. And I'm telling you, that was one of the meanest cars I'd ever been in.
Oh, yeah.
And just gorgeous car.
So, we had to find the rich kid back in my day to have the 5.0.
Yeah, by the time I got there, they were a dime a dozen sitting in somebody's yard.
Vanilla Ice had a convertible one in his Ice Ice Baby, video. So, yeah, I'll take that old joke, man.
Well, that really wasn't even an attack on that. It was just that they were still around when I was there too. It just was they weren't.
I seen my white hair shining when I was turning around backwards in the there. So it's.
Hey, I do gotta just again a reminder there. Shout out to Ryan Bowling at Dirt to Media, and then us at Thirsty Goat Entertainment. Again, next week, Friday night, Thunder Valley Raceway, Crate Late Models, $1,250 to win. Be there. I'm going to tell you, and I got to say this. Number one, again, shout out to Misty and Steve. They've done a great job down there at Thunder Valley, but that place races really well. And you wouldn't think that crates would run on that little bull ring as well as they do, but they put on a heck of a show. Definitely check that out. If you can't be there, remember, with your VIP subscription to dirttomedia.tv, you get all the weekly racing at Thunder Valley Raceway as a part of your subscription live. So you can watch that live racing action as a part of your VIP monthly subscription. So, Matt, again, I don't know what's going to happen this week, whether Mother Nature's going to play nice or not.
It's going to be. I know it's supposed to quit raining by the weekend, but if it keeps raining like it is, I think we're going to get too much during the week, so I'm a little nervous.
And we always know the thing at Brownstown Speedway on weeks like this is it's not the track surface because it's supposed to be 90 and partly sunny on Saturday, with not much rain on Friday. The track surface will dry. The problem is going to be the pits if they've sat in this water all week.
Yeah.
So,
and I noticed on the way down here, there's a lot of fields coming towards
standing
water.
Yep.
Yeah, that was what I was paying attention to on the way over here, and it looks like where we live, you know, that Jackson County's got a lot more rain than we have in Jennings County.
And I think it stayed a little bit farther south. Like even when I came home today before the podcast, it was sunny in Seymour, and I turned south on 31, and about 2 miles on 31, I hit a wall of water that was just pouring.
Well, we left the house, and the sun was out. I mean, blue sky at the house, and we come down 31, and we just got south of 60, the 65 overpass, and it started pouring. And actually, we were driving down. I said, "Looks like it's raining up there because the haze and it was pouring rain." So yeah, I'm like you, it's running just a little south there.
So I've not been over by the track, but I know this. Jim will do everything he can to make sure it's ready to go and ready to race. And again, it's a good weekend of racing, and so get out, support your local dirt track. Again, guys, go check out some of the new items we've got there at shopthirstygoat.com. Don't forget the new Dirt Legends tee. That is edition number 1. I know that I've had some of the debate that they felt like there should be some other drivers included in the first shirt. It is out, but so feel free to go check that out. There will be other versions coming out, so be ready for those. But also the Saturdays are for Victory Lane. There's another brand that I won't throw out that thought Saturdays were for something else. I think the boys, we felt like Saturdays were much more for Victory Lane. Don't forget about the local 812 UPLA shirts, and then the iHeart Models shirts. So go check those out. Make sure, again, we appreciate everybody's support. Don't miss out on Race Clean products also at GoRaceClean.com. And, Matt, we'll be back and better than ever.
Oh, yeah. I'm ready. 2 races before we come back. Or actually, possibly 3.
Yeah,
so.
if we get in Summer Nationals.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We'll be back in 2 weeks.